This is my very first video, and I thought what better way to introduce myself to all of you than with the autumn reading tag, because I feel like at the end of this, you all will know me fairly well. Welcome to That Cozy Book Nook. I'm Tori, and like I said, this is my very first video. I'm so excited for this, so go ahead and get comfortable. Grab a mug of tea, preferably if you have one with a little character on it, like Wolfie here, and let's just go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to share all these books that I have with you, and this tag was originally created by Amy over at Amy Jane Smith, and this just deals with all of my favorite things. I'm in the mood for this because the weather here in Chicago is super chilly today. I have on my scarf. There are candles going in my room, so this is perfect for me. So there's a lot to cover. So the first question is, are there any books you plan on reading over the autumn season? And my answer to that is, of course. Always. There's so many books, so little time. And I actually had so many to share with you, but I feel like we would be here way too long. So I actually just picked out 3. The first book that I have here is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is my favorite childhood story. I am obsessed with Peter Pan, obsessed with Neverland, and I feel so comforted and so warm every time I go back to this book. This is the Word Cloud Classics edition. I actually just got this edition. I have a few more editions of Peter Pan up on my bookshelf, but there is just really something about this world. I just can crawl up in it and become a kid again, fly around Neverland. I mean, I love it to death. And we probably are all familiar with the Disney movie. I've seen that 100 times. But there's just so much in this book that I just feel like resonates so much deeper than the movie. And I feel like you just get so much more from it. So if you have never read Peter Pan, go for it. It's a truly, truly magical book that I have no problem returning to. The second book that I cannot wait to read is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I've had this book on my shelf for a long time, at least 2 years. Yeah. And every time I look at it, I get a little intimidated, and I've heard so much about this. It follows this man named Walter Moody, and it's set in New Zealand during the gold rush. And he walks into this meeting where 12 men are sitting around a table. I'm going to put this down because it's heavy. Where 12 men are sitting around the table discussing a series of unexplained events that have been happening. The story just really picks up from there, I guess. And it, deals with constellations and zodiac signs. And from what I've heard so far, it sounds super intriguing. So I am looking forward to that. The Luminaries has shot to the top of my to-read list, and it will be read before the year is out. And the last book that I have for this question is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and I am so excited to read this book. This has been on my shelf for at least 3 years, right there in that empty little space by Les Mis, so it's about time that I finally read it. I'm so stoked for this. This book takes place in the early 19th century in England, and it follows Mr. Norrell, who in this period practical magic is basically a thing of the past, and Mr. Norrell is discovered, and soon the people challenge him to basically show off his powers, and pretty soon his reputation is challenged by the emergence of another magician, Jonathan Strange, who I believe becomes his pupil. And from there, just magical chaos ensues. This is just going to be perfect for when the snow starts falling because it's huge. This thing is it's over 750 pages. So there's going to be a lot to cover, and I cannot wait to review this for you guys. So stay tuned for that because this is going to be read within the next couple of months. September brings back to school memories. What book did you most enjoy studying, and what were your favorite and least favorite school subjects? Well, that's tricky because I was a little bit of a rebel in high school, in English lit in high school, because I never really read the books that I was supposed to be reading. I just could never find motivation in reading things like The Great Gatsby or To Kill a Mockingbird or Frankenstein or what have you, and then analyze it and then write 20 pages about it. that was never really appealing to me. And so I guess to compensate for that, I just read for pleasure basically. And one of the classic novels that I just read on my own time during high school that I really associate with my junior year is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is really what got me started loving classics. I know a lot of people cite Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, and that's great. But this A Tale of Two Cities just really started my love for Dickens, and I just found this easy to read and actually really enjoyable. So if you've ever been hesitant to read A Tale of Two Cities, I just say go for it. I thought this was a wonderful place to start with Charles Dickens. Before this, I had never even read A Christmas Carol, and so I highly, highly recommend this. So this is what I enjoyed reading the most in high school, not necessarily studying because, like I said, I didn't read this for class. So there is that. And my favorite subjects in high school all have to deal with history. I loved, world history, U.S. history, art history, and theology, which is obviously the study of religious history. Those were all just super appealing to me. I did really well in history classes, and then I even went on to become a classics major in college because I love history so much. I really just can't get enough of it. My least favorite subject in high school was definitely geometry. 100% do not recommend. I do not like geometry. I won't say that I didn't like math because I actually did really enjoy math, and I really enjoyed science, especially like chemistry, physics, things like that. But there was something about geometry that it wasn't coming to me. The next question, number 3, October means Halloween. Do you enjoy scary books and films? If so, what are some of your favorites? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love horror films. Oh my gosh. No, that's not true. I was going to say that I can watch them all year long, but that's really not true. And it's difficult to say, that a horror movie that's my favorite, because I just think that's weird. Like, oh my gosh, I love The Exorcist. No, that's not true. But I do really enjoy classic horror films. So things like Amityville Horror, The Shining, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street. I love those so much. I recently just watched The Conjuring 2. That was too much for me. But yes, I do really, really enjoy horror films. Horror novels, I'm not that into, because you can't really look away. You're forced to continue reading if you obviously want to finish the book. With horror films, I can just kind of be under my blanket, cover my eyes, that kind of thing. But horror books, you're really forced to pay attention. But some that I do enjoy, I really loved It by Stephen King. I read that a few years ago, and that was terrifying. I don't really find Dean Koontz's novels too scary or I don't know. They don't resonate with me at all. I read The Husband by Dean Koontz, and I also read, Intensity? I didn't really enjoy those at all. Maybe I need more exposure to his work, but I definitely think Stephen King is up there with making me feel unnerved and creeped out. Number 4. With November, it's time for bonfire nights and firework displays. What's the most exciting book you've read that really kept you gripped? This wasn't that difficult to answer because I just went back to the books that I read and didn't get a lot of sleep while reading. And those books are, I have to reach all the way over here, The Chaos Walking Trilogy by Patrick Ness. I think a lot of people may have read these already, but I still really feel like they are so underrated. I mean, these books, for me, I don't think they're for everybody. It really, really depends on your preference. But for me, I was hooked from the first couple of chapters. And just from there, the story really takes off. It follows this really young boy. He's at least 12, I think, named Todd. And he lives in this town where it's only men. There are no women in the town. And all the men can hear each other's thoughts in this thing that's called noise. And the town's mayor is protecting, well, all the men actually, they're protecting this secret in the town that is so heavily guarded that Todd basically has to run for his life. And while on the run, he meets the very first girl he's encountered in his whole life. And together, everything that Todd has known just completely shatters. And I thought it was so well done. The books are written in first person present tense, which is something that I'm not too into because I really don't like the immediacy of action in the first person present tense. But Patrick Ness, handles it so well. You're reading it and I just feel like he's a natural born storyteller. It flows well and you're honestly hooked from the first book to the last sentence of the third book. And I'm telling you, I was up until like 4 a.m. I'm a person, I value my sleep. I will sleep as long as you let me. I take random naps. I barely slept while reading these books. The first book is The Knife of Never Letting Go. The second one is The Ask and the Answer. And the third and final book is Monsters of Men. I always want to say of Monsters and Men, but that is the band. And they all come with short stories too that I think are really great. So highly, highly recommend these. Check them out. I hope you won't be disappointed. I think people who love those books really love them like me. And then there are people who just like, no, that wasn't for me. And that's fine. It's a spectrum. I respect that. It's fine. Fifth question is, what book is your favorite cozy comfort read? So one of the books that really, really had me cozy, I read it last year on the cusp of summer moving into autumn, and I wish I just had waited a little bit longer to read this because this is just the ultimate cozy read, I think. And that is Among Others by Jo Walton. I loved this book so much, which is crazy because I did not love it when I was reading it. It took a while to grow on me, and I think that's because I had, just based on the synopsis, I had a different set of expectations going into it. Reading the synopsis, it makes it sound like the book is just like really heavy with fantasy and magic and things like that. And that's really not the case. The book follows a young girl named Maury and it takes place in Wales. And the book starts, it's an epistolary format, first of all. And the book starts when there was a magic battle that happened between Maury and her mother. And it was a battle that left Maury crippled and her sister dead. And from there, you're really just getting the way that Maury copes with these things, and it's a coming of age story, and she's a bookworm. She loves science fiction, and she talks about that a lot, and just frequents all these cafes in Wales. It's so good. It's so good, and it's just so comforting to read this. Number 6, curled up with a good book. What is your hot drink of choice? This is easy. I love tea. I drink tea all day long. When I'm not drinking tea, I switch to hot chocolate. Man, when it's cold outside, when it's cold and raining or snowing outside, I need an IV of hot chocolate. That's all I drink. I will leave a link to my favorite hot chocolate ever. It's Stevens Gourmet. Even though it says it's gourmet, you think it's expensive, but it's really not. It's pretty reasonable. That's probably where most of my calories in the winter come from, is Stevens hot chocolate. So thank you, Steven. It's so good though. And then last, any plans you're looking forward to over the next few months? Yes, actually in a few weeks, my cousin is getting married and it's a destination wedding and it's in Mexico. I've never been to Mexico, so super stoked for that. Can't wait. And then in December, it's my mom's birthday and she and I are going to California to see Misty Copeland perform in the Nutcracker. And I cannot wait for that. I'm a huge fan of Misty Copeland. I love her so much. I think she is such a great role model and just insanely talented. And so I cannot wait for that. So that should be fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to those few events coming up. So yeah, that's it, guys. I really hope you all enjoyed this very first video. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content that you see so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will be back next week with a new video. So thanks so much, guys. Take care. And until next time, stay cozy.